the theme that I'm going to talk about is the Chicago World's Fair of 1933. The theme of the World's Fair was a century of progress. And it was named that in honor of the city's centennial at the time. But it was a really interesting theme, I think, on multiple levels. So on the one hand, you had these exhibits at the World's Fair that were about, the dream car of the future or the kitchen of the future. Would have liked to have seen some of those, actually. But, there were also, I think, cultural aspects to that theme. And for African Americans, certainly social and political elements to the theme as well. A great example of that is a concert that the Chicago Symphony Orchestra did, based on this century of progress idea that was built around the work of African American, black composers, because it was pretty international. But black artists, black composers really built out this amazing concert that was featured at the fair. So we wanted to present a few pieces of music that were associated with that concert and talk about those a little bit. It was 1933, mid-June, conducted by Frederick Stock. And some of the guest artists included Margaret Bonds, who was a young African-American piano player, and Roland Hayes, who was at the time one of, if not the most well-known tenors in the country. Hayes had a really amazing voice, and he was very well known. One of the things that I think was interesting about him, known for being one of the 20th century's first truly international artists. It's not all glamour. I think for a lot of African American artists, a lot of this came up by default. So they, went to school in England and Europe and other places, and toured in these places, because a lot of times there were not slots left open for black students in American schools, or because these performance venues were not really creating spaces in their schedules for African American performers. So I think it's interesting that there's this kind of ironic duality to the fact that he was known as this great international star. Along with that, for Hayes, I think is interesting some of the pieces that he performed. He played a piece by Samuel Coleridge Taylor, who was an Afro-British composer, and he also played, he sang a piece by Berlioz, sang this, of course, in French. I think that impressed audiences at the time for sure, but again, that kind of double meaning. Any vocalist has to be able, if they want to participate in the repertoire fully, to sing in all of these different languages, German lieder and arias and things like that. But I think there was a way that kind of multilingual capability was really leveraged by black performers as a sign of the just accomplishments and capabilities of the race in general. So there was just a lot of meaning in this concert for blacks in Chicago at the time. He also performed, as a part of this concert, two spirituals, By and By and Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. And the ones he performed in the concert were his own arrangements with the orchestra.